Osiris.
Welcome to the Saint Disruption Podcast, where brilliant musicians, poets, and visionaries come together to share their creative collaborations and explore what it means to be human in these times. Episode 2.
Hey, this is DJ Logic. Keep the roots going.
Hey, this is Brian Jackson. Keep your connection with the earth and life.
Hey, this is Jeff Firewalker. Let's connect. You know, why at this particular time is it important and useful and perhaps of service to bring poetry and music together again and maybe create some new avenues? Can we talk about that a little bit? I'd like to get y'all's impression of and reflections about what the opportunity is. There's so many young people that have important things to say, and these are different times than, you know, Brian, and when you were working with Gil Scott-Heron, you know, these are different times, but in many ways they're the same times.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. I mean, you know, this year in particular, there was somebody that I was speaking to yesterday that put a word in my mind. I can't get it out. Vortex. You know, because there is a vortex of spiritual energy that's going around right now. And, if, you know, being sensitive to it, it's kind of moving us all back together or together for the first time, you know, in so many ways. And of course, because it is this time and not the past, young people must be involved in it. And they're caught up in that same vortex, and they're feeling it. And they're looking for ways to not only express it, but in ways to navigate it. You know, and that's you know, I think that's where we come in. We've been there a couple of times, at least, around that block a few times, and you know, we're here to point the way. They want to use their creativity for good. You know, there are those who want to use it for financial gain. It's fine, you know. But there are others who actually want to do something more positive and even more spiritual. So, you know, this is why we're coming together. I believe that we couldn't have avoided it if we had tried.
Yeah.
It's just like Brian said, like a vortex, and you know, for the youth, you know, for them to, you know, also want to express themselves or what's going on, what they, you know, what they're dealing with, you know, to be able to, you know, talk about what's going on in their surroundings and things like that, you know, just amplifying, you know, their voice. And, you know, it's great to see poetry and music, you know, this is like a soundtrack. It's really good to just see that navigate with all the different things and obstacles that they, you know, that they have to deal with or see, you know.
You're in a place that's understood kind of globally as a barometer for what's happening in the world artistically and socially. What changes have you seen in the past few years? I mean, are there places that you're noticing in young people's minds and hearts that are different than they were even just like 3 or 4 years ago? What are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of sadness, you know, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, you know, and then I'm seeing some uplifting things as well, you know, but you know, it's definitely things going on that's evolving in a direction that we're all trying to figure out where it's going. But my travels, you know, different places, it's a lot of different attitudes and movement going on. You know, when I go in there to play music, you know, it's just like it brightens people up, you know, regardless if I'm DJing or playing with the band, you know, it gets them out of that headspace or, you know, so, and I get a chance to talk to certain, you know, audience members or, you know, just see the people's energy and their vibe, you know, that to me, you know, feels good. And I know that certain places there's a lot of different emotions going on, and people they need to hear music, and they need to hear amplified voice that that's something that they could relate to, and vibe off of as well.
One curiosity I have, I can direct this question first to you, Brian, as an elder. It's and you've seen the music industry evolve and the way that devolve. Yeah. There's certainly no lack of no lack of quantity and content out there, and yet it seems as if people may not be met in their needs for music these days. There's so much music out there, but it doesn't seem in a lot of ways to be meeting people. What's going on, and what do we need to do?
I think it's not authentic, I think that people are really looking for the authenticity, the realness of the original purpose of music was to express not only like emotions, but to convey lessons, that lessons learned, and that's brings me back to the idea of the griot, which is something that it was very precious to both Gil and me. And I think that the problem with the music business per se is that none of that is important to them. I'll give you a great example, because it's not a new problem. It's obviously a problem that's gone on a long time. I was at a record store when Bridges first came out. Gil and I were there to promote the album. We took a picture with the owner of the record store, and there was a sign. It was a big poster for Bridges that Arista had put out. There's a song in that album called Delta Man, and on that song, one of the lines is "Put a little revolution in your life." Okay, so this store owner sent me this picture. It's like just a few years ago. He said, "Hey, remember this?" And I said, "Yeah, I sure do," because there was another song on it that had to do with being deaf, dumb, and blind. And so there were the three of us, me, Gil, and the record store owner, and one of us covered our eyes, and one of us covered our ears, and one covered our mouth. Okay, so I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. That's cool, haha." And then I looked over at the poster that was kind of just barely in view, and the poster says, Bridges, Gil Scott-Heron, and Brian Jackson. And then the tagline was, "Put a little revolution in your life." And underneath that, 1099. And yeah, I see your look. Yeah. That's pretty much the same look I had when I saw the picture. Yeah. And I kind of, for a second, I kind of took a double take, and I said, "Wow, we've been had." It's like everything genuine in the music business is commodified.
This question actually comes up in herbology. It's like, can you commodify it? Can you bottle it? And, we've got all this marvelous technology to freeze moments in time, but will electronic media ever provide what the real in-person experience does? Will the tincture that you get on the drugstore shelf ever reach the potency that grandma gets when she picks it from the yard with love in her hands and healing intent?
We have to accept it though, because it's for a lot of people it's their only introduction to it. So just like the herbs and and the medicine, we kind of have to also accept the things that we have to go through in the music business, because that's the only way that people are going to be able to get it.
Right.
I remember being a kid, anticipating the next album coming out from, the Stones or Zeppelin or whatever, and the experience that there was actually a very special intimacy and opening and seeing those liner notes.
Great.
That's pretty special.
It is special, for me, just opening it up a record, Gil Scott, seeing a Gil Scott record, Gil Scott-Heron record, Brian, and, seeing the cover, the artwork, and knowing when that record, the record came out, seeing, just like you said, just the titles of the songs and stuff like that with the artwork, it was all meaningful, and and who played on the record and stuff like that.
Exactly.
To me that was special because it all stayed in my head. So when I went and got the next Gil Scott record, I was like, oh, I know who these players are, who these and so on, so, as well as the Miles Davis records, and
right.
and Sly and James Brown, so they all had different artwork and different messages and stuff like that, and yeah, that was like my enthusiasm just to go out and get those records. And same thing with like a Public Enemy record, and KRS-One or Tribe Called Quest, I was just excited and anxious just to see the artwork as well as who played on it, who produced it, who did what, and yeah, that was something special for me.
The comments, the thank yous,
the thank you,
like
the thank you,
the thank yous,
the thank yous.
Oh, wait a minute, they were involved in it,
right? And then
right,
and then it's like those certain artists were thinking their peers. They would go thinking records that they were inspired by. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the hip hop guys. They were thinking Gil Scott and Brian, and thinking about it. It was like it just kept going on, evolving, and that's what made it so special for me. Like, oh, let me go check out that record. Good father, let's get that. Add on to the collection. So everybody was like, just giving props to the people that that inspired them. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you something though.
Yeah.
How do we get that back?
Keep bringing the vinyl back, keep talking about it, keep showing, the appreciation of where we came from and who, inspired us, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And doing like collaborational things, like bringing in the young youth, and having them jam with us, or, or just coming out and seeing what we do, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
And in an improvisational way, or in a way, that's something that they can relate to.
So it sounds like you're hopeful that we can meet the moment.
Oh yeah, I know so. And the minds are still young. They're like a sponge. You know what I'm saying? And the time is is now. It's here. And it's just getting it out there. In the right way. Yeah.
With the ingredients and energy that we've got, I think we can meet this particular moment in history in a good way and hold up a mirror and
we were
do some good.
We were made for this, man. We were born for it. We have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. So what's y'all's musical epitaph? You think about the days after you left your body, and what do you want that musical epitaph to look like? What would it say?
Just kind of like what I was just saying, just leaving this story, the story that's evolving, the from the past to now, keeping it evolving and keeping that lineage, is like the root, and keeping that. And I think I was talking earlier how the technicals of the forest, you know what I'm saying, and just keeping the roots all going, because every tree and every plant and the herbs, they all talk to each other, and then they all communicate with each other in a way, they know the right chemistry that's going, and it's just keeping everything going and evolving, and they all feeding off each other, and yeah, that's how I see it.
That's beautiful, man. To be remembered as an agent of the inherent intelligence of evolution. That's
nature.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm taking it off the music, but like mushrooms, and it's like I was just talking, having a cacao and a mushroom yesterday. that right there, I do it. You ground you, and the combination of that, having that, and before I went on stage and everything, it was like a grounding moment, and it's just like, and we started playing and we started improvising. We just like we're in our we're in our movie, we're grounded, but we're in our vibe, and then the sound check, the same thing. Was just like, we were just talking by just listening to each other, you know what I'm saying? And passing the ball around. We didn't know what the set list was going to be like. Just flow. It just went from one thing into the next. It was.
DJ Logic.
And that's being caught up in the vortex. It's also
right.
it's being caught up in the in the moment. I think
yes,
in the present.
Yes.
Be here now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for my I mean, there were a lot of things that go through my mind, but I think the two that if I were to have an epitaph, it would have to be one that said something about other people instead of about myself.
Right.
And so one of the things I would say, I would quote a line from one of our songs, "Must be something, keep on moving for what's true." And the other one would just be about how energy is never destroyed. It only passes on, from one state to another. So somebody, please take this energy, and use it, use it for good.
Good. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Beautiful. I'm super interested in really the process of collective intelligence, and really trusting that when spirit guides the right people to come together, that every person has a leadership role. Every person has a spark of divinity, of creativity that is different than everybody else's spark. So, we've got this pantry, and this pantry is full of awesome, truth-telling, challenging, beautiful poetry from young poets, from elder poets, doesn't matter. And that pantry is also full of like a huge sonic landscape. I mean, you think about the musicians that have come together to work with us. I mean, it's humbling.
Yeah,
it is.
So you got this pantry. What would you do if anything were possible? How could we support you in making your dream episode, considering that what you got in the pantry to cook with? What would that look like?
Wow. First, organizing all my seasonings. Organizing all my seasonings, because those are tasteful buds. You have to flavor it and your palate. You know what I'm saying? So, gotta make sure everything's tasteful and flavorful. And it's something, that's good when you have that flavor and that taste in your mouth, and just like music is something. I was just talking about earlier is something that, you know, you won't forget. You know, it's going to stay and resonate, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, you change that formula, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, maybe you might want to add a little something, a little extra spice to it or something, but, you don't want to change that formula, but you want to do it in the right way and meaningful, you know. So yeah, you want to see the expression, you know, in from the the audience, or you know who you playing in front of, as well as them hearing your work. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's it.
So you as an individual artist, as an evolving soul, you know, it's like where do you source knowing what the right flavor combination is?
For me, it's an energy, you know. I really have to, you know, sit with it, you know, because we were talking about music and stuff earlier, you know, with the whole guitar and the bass thing and stuff like that. You know, I have to sit and vibe, and sometimes I have to walk away and then come back, you know, and or hear, you know, listening to something that's with no beat or no voice, you know, and you know, I kind of get thoughts like that as well. It's an energy, you know, it's an energy and thought for me, you know. Yeah,
it's the ability to be still.
That's right. That's it. Be still.
You have to really like kind of slow yourself down completely, and open your kind of like meditation.
It is.
Like
that's it.
You have thoughts.
Yeah.
You see them, but you gotta let them go so you can let other thoughts come back.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Walk away, come back, or. You know, like I said, don't listen. Don't listen. You know, don't overdo it too much. But like, you know, go meditate, or just go out, sit in the park for a minute and close your eyes. You know, and you hear the nature, you hear the sounds and stuff like that, and then come back. You know. Yeah,
it's inspiring. It's inspiring.
It really is. Yeah. It kind of goes back to our first conversation when you came to my house. We listened to a recorded teaching from a world-renowned elder named Joe T. And the theme of the transmission was, "Are you listening?" And she was saying to us that the earth is asking that question of us right now. And kind of what I hear you saying, Brian, in a way, is that maybe a big piece of this has to do more with listening than it does action.
Yeah, listening. You know, I mean, I think that we always learn more when we listen than when we talk. Yeah, I don't think we learn very much when we talk.
Right.
But God, man, you know, when you listen, then there are so many levels on which you can hear.
Yeah.
Not just it's not just words, it's not just music, but it's the earth. You know, the earth is talking to us. You know, and we really should pay attention to it. It's the thing I think that we probably lost the most of is our ability to do that. The elders, you know, they were able to do that. Our grandparents, you know, our great-grandparents.
Yes.
They were good at that.
It's grandmother medicine, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we are so intolerant of sitting with hard questions. We just need that answer. And
which is funny because, you know, there are no answers.
It's ironic, isn't it?
So we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, basically.
That's right.
We do it before we start.
I'm really curious about, like, you know, kind of like reflecting on the pantry of stuff, ingredients that we've got to work with in this podcast vision. It's like, how would you structure it? What would you do from ground up?
Yeah. The idea would be to kind of investigate the silence. I think it's about listening. And so I think my best podcast is one where I get a chance to listen to, particularly since you're working with them, to listen to young people. Like I would just ask them, what is it that you want to know? And what is it that you want us to know? And and I think I would go from there.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. That's
Because we don't listen, man. We don't listen. Just talking about listen. We don't listen to kids enough.
Right.
We try, but our lives are so complex and, and we have so many things going on.
Right.
That, a lot of times we can't slow down enough, like to really hear what it is they want to know or to get the knowledge that they have.
Yeah.
And so I think my ideal podcast would be to just have the kids ask the questions and answer them.
beautiful. Yeah.
What if Maya didn't speak out? What if Langston Hughes didn't write it down? What if Josephine Baker didn't dance it out? Oh, tell me, where would we be now? What if Sojourner never told the truth? Ida B. Wells never printed the news, and Harriet never went underground. Tell me, where would we be now? We are the ones you've been waiting for. We can change the world. We can change the world. With our love, 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 love. It is up to
Conversation.
Yeah.
Conversation. I think a lot of parents should have, teachers should have, hear what the kids have to say, like you said.
Yeah. It ain't easy.
Maybe, they have all the technology equipment around them that they play on, and that's giving them some answers and some things, but it's also good to have a one-on-one, or group session conversation, and hear what they have to say, and also have them hear what you have to say as well. So, and this is something, I talk to my daughters about, and just hearing what she had, because not just being a dad, being your best friend, what I'm saying? So, and I want them to be able to express, what they're feeling and feel comfortable telling me what they're feeling, what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
it's that's something, my elders, they would ask me, what I've been up to, where I've gone, and stuff like that. And then they'll start telling me stories about, their upbringing or who they listen to and stuff like that. What they did to get out of certain situations or stuff like that, or problems, all that stuff,
That's right.
But conversation is definitely important, one-on-one, one-on-one or a group session, I should say, and family as well. I think that's very important,
While we're on this topic, I'm curious, guys, if you look back at the formative stage of your awakening as an artist, a music artist, as a writer, is there something that looking back you could have imagined an adult saying to you that would have made a huge positive difference? What was never said to you by a parent, an adult, that would have wow, that if I would have heard that when I was just discovering myself as an artist, that would have made a big difference.
Wow. Doing what you love, and
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
That's the one I was thinking.
doing what you love, and the passion, having the passion in it, and in the business stuff too, and definitely gonna go through some things, and just keep pushing forward. Not everything is always gonna be, smooth sailing. You fall, you get down, you get back up, and keep going. And you also, you write down things too. A little journal or a little something. Just to look back at. And yeah, it's kind of like a puzzle. Feet in the puzzle. You put the right piece in the right spot. You're still trying to find that right piece to continue to, extending that puzzle,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just answered. I mean, that would have been what I said too.
Mm-hmm.
I was really fortunate that two of those things I was told. One of them, my mom in particular, she said, do what you love.
Mm-hmm.
This was her thing. She was like, you love that, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not going to be easy. Don't expect it to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing what you love, then that's the most important thing. And the other thing, was some advice from some older musician.
Yeah.
Who said to me, get your publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Always make sure.
That's right.
Make sure you get your.
right.
Don't let anybody take your publishing, because your publishing is your pension.
That's right.
The people who have 9 to 5s and they work all their lives, at the end of it, they have a pension.
Mm-hmm.
Your pension is your investment in your art.
That's right.
And so I think I was lucky. I was fortunate that the people that I was told those things as a very young person.
Yeah.
What I so appreciate about the flavor of this conversation so far is that, to put it in kind of like native terms, I mean, we're talking about space holding. Instead of being active and imposing ourselves as more experienced artists, more experienced humans, it's like about space holding, isn't it? And my dream for the podcast would be to have enough magic, enough receptivity that out of the deep dialogue, out of the conversation, the young artist hears those things that they needed to hear at some point in their development, that there's medicine in that form. In our quietness, in our receptivity, in our eldership, in our space holding, those pieces of wisdom just naturally come up from where they live underneath the surface to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And what a beautiful group of people we've got to do this, man.
Yeah.
I mean, watching you all on stage last night, I mean, all those qualities, receptivity, humility, deep listening, arising to the moment, deeply skillful means bringing your whole self to the moment. I mean, it's like that was why that show was electrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I looked at the some of the young people that were there, and I saw how deeply involved that they were. I mean, they were like completely in that moment, and they were like focused on everything that everybody was doing.
Yeah.
And that to me is what that's what it was all about.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And as a person who kind of pretends to be a musician, the thing that really is exciting me about really putting poetry and words forward in this particular way is that the musical team that is collaborating with the poet, like my group did last night, is we have to show up for every phrase, for every word, and it may change, the flavor may change. It's so different than like, okay, we're going to do 4 bars of this, then we're going to modulate, and then we're going to take the solo break and go back to the band.
Yeah.
But you were right on it. I mean, you kept it was the voice and it was the box. You kept the rhythm. You're good. You're talking back and forth, and the guitarist was right there, and the playing his thing, his acoustic, the Spanish for the, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful
conversation.
And there's a lot. I enjoyed
the whole
that.
thing was beautiful.
Yeah, it was like a vignette.
Beautiful.
The whole flow of the whole set.
I agree.
It was great.
For me, the highlight in our set was having the opportunity to back Gina Corneo up in her so deeply personal and sensual account of the pandemic that her table was empty for so long. Her hallways and the corridors of her house were devoid of those conversations, those encounters that show us love in our humanity. I mean, she just
she nailed it. She nailed it.
Her voice carried on, amplified.
No doorbell to jog to. No, I'll get it. No, yes, come in. You can leave your shoes on the mat if you want. No, I'll take your coats. No, yes, the bathroom is just down the hall, second door on the right. No, oh, you gotta try this. Here, take a sip. No, cheers. Salud. Here's mud in your eye. No, clink, 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 clink. No communal. No closeness. No warmth. No, goddamn, they smell so good. No touch of a hand. No brush of a clothed shoulder. No open-mouthed eruptions of laughter. Unruly, riotous, as we raise our chalices and blot our tears. And for these momentitos, we are all immortals, dining royals, sipping gin and licking galaxies. No more no, and all more yes. And I tickle the dimples on my friends' faces with my thumbs because it's what we've always done. And she hugs me from behind with arms that have held her babies. And she buries her chin into my neck nook, and I melt my cheek to her cheek, and we sway to no music at all, but to the atmosphere that hums and hangs thick and swaddles us. And she tells me how this time together has been a long time coming. And I agree with her. And as we sway, I say, I love you. You know that? God, I've missed you. I've missed you and this so much. And she agrees with me as she reminds me, and still, life goes on. And still life, and still life.
The audience just, gravitate to, And this is someone was talking about, we talked about earlier with the black poets, you know what I'm saying? And how their voices amplified, and, it was just like those certain quotes and things like that, it was just like, the MCs, and they had those certain, certain different expressions and, how you say, certain different different terms and things like that the youth, they're like, oh, okay, there's something, it's just something that's really cool to see, the audience appreciate that and get it, and and they feel it from the heart, and the way the poet expresses it,
I mean, and the thing is, man, that what you're doing is something that we used to count on the school system to do.
Right.
Yeah, we used to count on the public school system to do that.
Yeah.
Like, kids found their inspiration in music. How many musicians do we know, who picked up an instrument in instrument class, in orchestra class,
right,
and fell in love with that instrument, whether it was a trumpet or a drum or a saxophone or a flute or whatever.
Right.
We don't have that anymore.
Nah.
So where do the kids who gravitate towards those things, whose souls need that,
right,
where do they go?
Yeah, that's right.
So this is, this is a service that, we have to take care of ourselves, right? We have to take care of each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes
try to bring instruments into that community too. For them to, to experience, to touch, to see what it could do, to pick their hands on it.
That's it.
A horn, a keyboard, turntable, etc. That's against the creativity mind going, and like, oh, okay,
All of it.
it could be that first note, That's it,
Yeah.
Because each instrument has a certain attitude and a way of bringing the expression out of that individual.
So
what I'm
true.
saying?
That's right.
So true.
My creative process through the years has been amazing. Talking to Brian, we're catching up with because he's showing me starting out carrying
maturation.
showing me carrying my turntables with my wires back in the day.
That must have been your mom's turntable.
Yeah, it must have been my
had the
mom's
plastic cover on it.
That's right. That's right. I didn't have no case or anything.
The RCA cables dragging along the floor.
I was just this enthusiastic young kid, just anxious to get up on stage and play with these amazing musicians. And I was just open-minded. That was the first, I say, being open-minded and, just taking in, and listening, that's to me was, enthusiastic, because I was up there and on the stage with these amazing musicians, and they basically brought me in and, looked at me as another musician and then helped me find my way, you know what I'm saying, in the musical text, in the technical way, I should say. Like I said, listening, and then just by doing that, that's how I evolved, just, working with a lot of different genres. We started off with improvisational jazz, and then went from improvisational jazz to alternative rock, and then from there went, it's also hip hop too, because I grew up, listening to hip hop. But, I just wanted my mind to expand and, taking all the other, ingredients of, the way everything was just, taken from here and there, as you evolve and you're kind of figuring it out, you know what I'm saying? And, through the years, just working with, jam band, and to world music too. So, and blues, so I've been blessed and fortunate to just keeping my mind open and absorbing with all those musical technicalities and stuff like that, as well as listening to some of the new stuff as well. So we all learn from some, take a little bit from here and there, and but on that end of that question, just keeping your mind, being open minded, and listening and it's so right to ask questions as well, That's it, Yeah, that's
with no disrespect to other, to any others.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the things that you said that, that other musicians, saw you as a musician is because you are, you have a musical sensibility.
Right.
And when I say no disrespect, I'm talking about other, turntablists, and I think that one of the things that had always bothered me about people, on the tables was that they didn't seem, a lot of times they would put two things together that didn't go.
Right.
And it used to always bother me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, no, that's not the right key, or it's a little out of tune,
right.
or, that's not the right vibe or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And you were like one of the first people that I heard that like solved all that for me.
Right.
You had all of that, your concept, your approach to it, was totally and complete musical. So there was we couldn't help but play, with what along with what you were doing,
right?
Because it was what we were about. You know, is what we were thinking.
Right, and that was the influence from listening to those records. The records like your records, Miles Davis records, James Brown records. It's certain all these Brazilian records. You know, certain rhythms. You know, I was hearing certain things, and I was like, I just kept practicing or listening to the music and just kind of interpreting those sounds. I find certain records with those type of sounds, and I already knew the note. So when you get into that. That key, I was like, oh, okay, let me bring that in, and if it wasn't a certain instrumentation there, or a trumpet sound, or a keyboard sound, or effect sound, I'll just try to manipulate that type of sound, and just using my imagination and like I said, being open-minded and creative, yeah.
I think that the in some ways I don't see my music as having matured, because I feel like I'm a constant student. Mm-hmm. I'm always a student, so for me to say, okay, my music is here now, it's here now, it's grown. Yeah. I've never been able to look at it like that. I wish I could maybe sometimes, but I'm happy studying. I'm happy, still being a student. I'm always learning something about music that I didn't know. I'm always learning something about my own music that I didn't know and my own capabilities. Yeah. And so it stays fresh to me. I feel like if I were to ever think, okay, now my music has finally gotten to a level where whatever level that is, I would probably be the saddest man in the world, So I'm just really, I guess the maturity, I think, comes in my resolve, to make sure that everything I do is new to me, is new to me, with the understanding that there is nothing new.
That's right. I like that.
So then what is new then about it? I guess the newness comes from the fact that I looked at it another way.
Right.
I was able to get outside of myself and look at it in another way. That's why I've chosen recently to work with other producers, because and other musicians and other writers, because my hands, when I sit to the keyboard, my hands go to the same chords all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm so sick of it. Mm-hmm. Or when I go into a studio, I'm going to go for the same sound. I'm going to go for the same groove or the same motifs. And, and like when you work with other people, that's not possible. Right. It's not possible. And I would never work with somebody who wanted to work with me thinking that, oh, he wants this, he wants that. No, that's not what I want. I want you to take me out of my space. Mm-hmm. And, so when I work, that's why I love collaboration, because somebody is always going to have an idea that I didn't think of. Yeah. Instead of taking that badly, I love that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that, because then we build on that.
That's right.
And in the end, it's something that neither one of us imagined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Collaborating and working with different producers. I'm taking to like sampling and stuff. And you hear like certain cats is taking your stuff and sampling and remixing it with sampling, taking it and putting it in a whole different thing. You're like, I didn't know that. What? I didn't capture that moment. Yeah,
exactly. This one little snippet in time. Wow, man, I didn't even think of that.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's what keeps it all evolving, as well as going back to the lineage of where the sample came from and knowing the origin and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's, yeah.
The Saint Disruption Podcast. Recorded and mixed by Hamilton Media Design at Sidehouse Records. You can also find more creative collaborations on all our major streaming platforms. Visit our YouTube channel for more creative content and video episodes of our podcast.
Osiris.